The following program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Finance of America Mortgage, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1071, AZBK 0910184. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit AbsoluteLoans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information. You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Finance of America Mortgage. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to Money Hour at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, January 2nd show. I am your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. My goal is to keep you up to date on the latest news and trends in our local economy. Keep me tuned in, and I will keep you informed. I hope all of you had a great New Year's Day. I wish each of you a happy, prosperous, fun-filled, joyful, and financially successful new year. That is what the show is about. It's about your money and being in the best financial position that you can. If you're hearing my show at a different day or time, you're listening to a rebroadcast, but I'm here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that I have on the show today. You can call at 1-855-400-1150. Again, 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And my lineup for the show today, I have Frank Scivally with the Cascade Team, buying and selling a business in today's market. Also in studio, I have Bergner with Realogics, Sotheby's International Realty, relocating and purchasing real estate in our Seattle area. Great information and great guest in studio. For more information on any topics or topics you'd like to hear on future shows, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or you can go online to themoneyhour.com. And let's start out the show as always with a little money chat. Money. Well, for the new year, make April a little merrier by preparing for tax time today. The federal government estimates that 60% of individuals use paid preparers to complete and submit their tax returns. If you are one of these people, it's important that you get started right away so you have a successful tax return experience, which is a good thing for all of us. We want the IRS to be good to us, so we need to be prepared for them. So here's a list of things. Choose a preparer. If you don't have a tax CPA, licensed CPA or accountant, now's the time to find one. You can find a great source to assist you by visiting the show site at themoneyhour.com for one of my show experts in that arena. Also, if you have any friends that have gone through the process before, that might be a good way to get a recommendation as well. Be sure that the person that you choose has a preparer tax ID number or PTIN showing that he or she is authorized to prepare federal income tax returns. Also, inquire about fees, which likely will depend on the complexity of your tax returns. Now, steer clear of anyone taking a percentage of your refund. The IRS has other good tips to choose a tax preparer, including a link to the IRS directly, and you can search according to the qualifications that you're looking for. Next, go ahead and schedule your appointment. The sooner you meet with your preparer, the sooner you can begin the process. Even if you get an extension, I would discuss get that done ahead of time. And if you wait too long to schedule an appointment, you may not be able to get in to see your tax preparer until April, which would be a little bit late in the process. So get in there and get that appointment scheduled. Now, gather your information by the end of January, or actually probably be on February 2nd, because the end of January is Sunday. You should have received various types of information that you need for each form. Verify that the information matches your own tax for your own returns. And here's some common forms. This is not a complete list. The IRS has information on many other types of forms that you may need. But W-2, if you're employed. Form SSA 1090, if you receive Social Security benefits. There's a variety of 1099s to report income, such as cancellation of debt, dividends, interest, non-employee compensation paid by independent contractors. Note Form 1099-B, which reports gains and losses on security transactions, is not due until February 16th of 2016. Now, new Form 1095-A to report information for the government marketplace for which you purchased health coverage. Varies of 1098s reporting mortgage interest, student loan interest, and tuition payments. Form W2Gs for certain gambling winnings, if you had any gambling winnings. Schedule K1s for entities in which you have ownership, interest, corporation partnerships, limited liabilities, companies, trust, or estates. Now, note you may not have received those yet. They come in late September 15th, 2016 for the K1s. Now, gather your receipts. Which ones do you need depends on whether you choose to itemize your personal deductions instead of claiming the standard deduction. You can choose to itemize if you produce a greater write-off. Unfortunately, the only way to know for sure is to determine the amount that you itemize deductions and compare them with your standard deduction amount. So you want to make sure that you're paying the least amount of taxes or getting the most money back that you can. So take a look at both options. Now, for itemizing, getting receipts together now by whatever system. Hopefully you've got a great system in place to help you throughout the years and the variety of deduction expenses. So look for the receipts for medical costs not covered by insurance or reimbursement by any other health plan, flexible spending account or health savings account, property taxes, job-related and investment-related expenses are just a few listed there. Now, if you have business income and expenses to report on a Schedule C, you'll need to share your books and records, so your QuickBooks or any accounting system receipts for expenses, banks, and credit card statements. The more organized that you can be, the less time it will take your preparer, which translates into lower fees for his or her services. Next, brace yourself for tax law changes. So you don't have to become a tax expert, but it helps to know about the tax rules so that you won't be caught off guard. The individual health care mandate brought into SLU a lot of changes, including new forms and claiming for the premium tax credit for eligibility individuals who purchased covered throughout the government marketplace exchange, and for figuring the shared responsibility payment for those who failed to carry coverage and do not qualify for the exemption. Now, next, you want to make a list of your personal information. So probably know your Social Security number, but you don't know the number for each dependent you claim. Jot down this information: addresses, vacation homes, rental properties, dates you moved, information about property that you bought and sold, including dates, what you originally paid, what you received on the sale, and expenses that you had need to be completed for your return. Now, just a couple other things I want to go over here. Decide whether to ask for filing an extension. So if you need more time to complete all of the tasks, you can request for filing an extension to October 15th, 2016. Now, this will avoid any late filing penalties, but be sure to pay what you think you'll owe to minimize or avoid any late payment penalties. There's no extension beyond April for the paying of the taxes that are due. Decide what to do about your refund. If you expect a refund, you have several options on what you want the government to do. Apply some or all of it to a refund tax bill on your on your return. The fund will be used for estimated taxes, reducing or eliminating the first installment of your estimated taxes. You can send your check or directly contribute some or all of your refund to certain types of accounts like your IRA, health savings account, education savings accounts, or to buy U.S. savings bonds through the Treasury Direct. So you can split your refund among the direct deposit choices by completing the Form 8888. You'll want to tell your tax return preparer what you need to do, what you want to do. And if you want the refunds used for your 2015 purposes, you want to use the refund to make a deductible IRA contribution for 2015. You'll need to inform the institution about the right year in which you should apply that payment. So find a copy of your last year's tax returns. If you use the same preparer, they'll most likely have those. If not, you'll want to locate those and make sure that you're comparing things that you had from last year, maybe payers of interest and dividends. If you receive this income last year, look for the 1099s for this year, unless you've sold stock, closed bank accounts, or made other investment changes to the account for getting your 1099 for this year. Also charities, if you make small gifts, you may not have received the acknowledgement from the organization, but you can still deduct your gift as long as you have the canceled check or other proof. So see last year's returns of the list of organizations that you donated to. Bottom line, just start early, doing the prep work for your income tax so that you'll have a successful tax return experience. And ideally, you'll have been gathering all of this information throughout the year. And that's the Money Chat today. A little bit more because we're talking about the IRS and how to prepare for it. So I want to make sure you guys have a list there to get prepared and start it early. Coming up next in the Money Hour, are you considering buying or selling a business? Frank Scivally with the Cascade Team right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman to save money.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need feedthepig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
My name is Tom Thornton.
And my name is Cindy Thornton. We're retired, and this is how we live united.
We decided to volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
United Way is how we contribute, because we know our time and money are going to the right places.
Judging by the thank yous we get at the clinic, I'd say we're doing the right thing with our retirement, too. We're Tom and Cindy Thornton. We volunteer at our community free health clinic. We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, January 2nd show. I'm committed to providing you knowledge needed to be successful in every area regarding your financing. Knowledge is power, and that's what you'll receive by listening to my show. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150. Or online at themoneyhour.com. You can ask any questions, get connected with the guests that I have in studio, or I love to hear from my listeners on topics that you want me to bring into studio. And right now in studio, I'm going to have a conversation with Frank Scivally with the Cascade Team. Everything you need to know about buying or selling a business in today's market. And I've had my show for 5 years, and I was actually looking back, and this is the first time that I've actually had a conversation regarding to buying and selling a business. I'm really excited, Frank, to have a conversation with you. Thanks for joining me in studio.
Thank you.
And a little bit about Frank. Frank is a retired Air Force officer, MS, MBA, and university professor. He is a past president of 2 publicly traded companies and previously owned a retail franchise. In 2003, Frank partnered with his wife, Lisa, to enter into the profession of business brokering on a full-time basis. In April of 2004, they affiliated with Business Broker Network. Their company, the Dove Group LLC, was based in Tucson, Arizona. As owners of the Dove Group, they were were in charge of all aspects of the business and brokerage services for the company. Then in spring of 2007, Frank and Lisa joined a brokerage franchise to expand the company's operations across the Southwest region and to provide professional brokerage services to business clients in the state of Arizona, New Mexico, and Western Texas regions. Now in 2012, they moved here to our great Seattle area and joined the Cascade Team, where Frank now practices as a business and commercial broker with Cascade. His diverse brokerage teaching and business coaching background affords him the opportunity to assist buyers and sellers in virtually all market segments. Again, right now we're going to be discussing purchasing or selling businesses. So, Frank, what type of businesses do you typically represent?
Well, we can typically represent virtually any business as long as it's a truly viable business, meaning that it's been profitable for more than 3 to 5 years. And with that said, it's literally any type of business: manufacturing, distribution, retail and service companies, even professional companies like CPA firms and dental and medical clinics. For example, one of my current listings is a painting company down in Tacoma. They have 20 years of service and profitability, and I'm also representing 2 franchises. One is a small mobile detailing franchise, and the other is a medical-related franchise. So, we run the gamut. We can do just about anything from representation of a business, whether it's from a buyer's side or a seller's side.
So, Frank, what is the most important aspect of selling and buying a business?
Well, knowing the true value of the business is the most important aspect. Most people, or most owners, really don't know what their business is worth. For example, I had one recently where the owner thought his business was worth about $100,000 and would have been very happy to sell it for that. After working with him a short period of time, we derived that the business was really worth about $250,000. We put it on the market at $250,000 and sold it for $225,000.
That's pretty exciting.
So, very happy. Both of us were happy, and it worked out very well for him, and it worked out for the buyer. And I'm still working with the buyer now on a consulting basis to improve those profits even more.
Yeah, I bet it's a totally different arena when talking about businesses versus our residential real estate when you're looking at comps and things. So what is a primary reason for selling or buying a business?
Well, from the selling side, it's usually retirement or something changes within the family. Maybe the owner's just tired of doing what they're doing day to day and wants to try a new venture. And sometimes it's illness-related, medical-related, so that's it. People who want to buy a business are generally looking to expand their horizons, get out of the corporate rat race, and move on to something that's a little more fun, and sometimes even build a legacy for their family. So all numbers of reasons for buying a business, and all of them are good, honestly. If you find something you really like to do, it's not really a job, it's a real profession.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's get back to price or value. So how do you determine price or value on a business?
Well, I use a proprietary pricing model that I've used now for 15 years to determine the seller's discretionary value of the business. And what that means is basically it's the profitability of the business with all the add backs like the owner's salary and the perks that he normally would pay for out of the business that really should be added back in. Once I have that seller's discretionary earning figure, or the SDE, I use a multiple that's geared for that particular type of business. Some businesses, the multiple would be as little as 1, and for some it could be as high as 10. So with that multiple, we make that calculation that then becomes the value that we list it for.
So should anyone buy or sell a business themselves? I would imagine not using a broker could possibly be a pretty big mistake.
Well, in the case we talked about a little earlier where the owner was going to sell his business for $100,000 and would have been quite happy to do that, he would have left $125,000 on the table. Good
point.
So, yeah, you can definitely sell a business without a broker, but you have to be willing to take all that time to get the business ready for sale, market it, entertain buyer requests, qualify buyers, negotiate the price and terms, and then get it closed. And that's quite a process that you have to add to what you're doing day to day. So in most cases, it's just a lot easier to hire a broker to do it for you.
Got it. And what about the time for closing? What would be an average or typical time to, once a contract is signed, to actually close in today's market?
Oh, that can be, once the contract's signed, it can be fairly short, generally from a few weeks to a month or so. But you have to expect that it's going to take 3 months to up to a year to actually sell your business from start to finish, because the marketing period is very long in a business sale, or can be.
Okay.
And in some cases, it never sells. I mean, honestly, only about 30 to 40% of businesses actually sell.
Wow. And what about how a seller would find a buyer for their business, or how a buyer would find a particular seller if they want that type of business?
Well,
is there an MLS for businesses?
Yeah, there are. They're not very well known. There's places like Biz by Sell and Merger Place, and national databases like that. We use all of those. In Washington, you can actually put your business on the MLS. It doesn't show you a lot. They don't give you a lot of really great numbers like you'll find in those other listings.
Okay.
But no matter where you list your business and what you're looking for, make sure you do your due diligence if you're a buyer, and that you're actually buying something that has value. Have someone do that value calculation that we talked about earlier for you. And honestly, this is a great place to hire a broker, if nothing more than just consult with them to do that work for you, so that you know you're buying something that has value.
Well, and I'm anybody here that's a regular listener to the show knows that I firmly believe in hiring an expert for anything that we do. I mean, there's just too many things that change, and I couldn't even imagine, purchasing a business on your own. It's not something that you definitely do every day. Now, what about purchasing under an LLC or corporation?
Well, you can still buy those. The purchase is a little different in that you're buying the entity. In most cases, requires a stock sale. So if you're buying a corporation, you're actually buying the stock of the corporation and keeping that corporation intact. An LLC is a little bit differently. In most cases, an LLC will cease to exist, and the new owner will start a new LLC and just buy the assets from the old one. But it can be done. If you're going to do that, you almost always have to have an attorney who specializes in those matters to handle it for you.
And what about including real property in the sale or purchase of the business?
Yes, you definitely can include real property as a part of the sale. The property is generally transferred in a separate transfer that will close at the same time as the business transfer. The two transfers are linked so that one can't happen without the other. And I'm also licensed to handle real estate, so I can handle that as well. But you just want to make sure that the timing is right, so that when the business transfers, the property transfers with it, and they're not separated by weeks or days. Okay.
And who chooses a business sale and handles all of the paperwork, Frank?
Well, we use different types of closers. Like I said earlier, if you're doing an LLC or a corporation, you need an attorney who specializes in that arena. But in most cases, we can use a normal title and escrow company. They just have to make sure that we get a good bill of sale, that all the environmental stuff is taken care of, and it's all wrapped up in one nice package. And there are a few folks who work for different title and escrow companies that can handle those for us.
So outside of title and escrow, Frank, who are the other big players in the team process for you?
Well, if you need financing, obviously the bank's the biggest player. They're going to make sure everything's done properly and that all the environmental is taken care of and the inspections are done, obviously. And they're not going to loan on something that doesn't have real value, same as in a residential deal. But, it's different. There's also different experts. Like if you we're buying a company with a lot of inventory, say a convenience store or something like that, you want to hire someone who does that for you, so you're not in there counting each item over the course of a week. They come in for a couple of hours and do it all for you.
Okay. So, Frank, how do you advise your sellers to add value to their business, and when can they learn more about the process of selling or buying?
Well, I always recommend a focused value-building approach using a tried and tested methodologies like the ones you find at my other site, PacificNorthwestAdvisors.com. You can also request a free copy of my book, Selling My Business, or you can contact me for a free consultation, or just give me a call at my phone number, 425-442-6293, or or shoot me an email at info@Pacific Northwest Advisors.
Perfect. And as always, if you want to get a hold of any of my guests that I have in studio, you can go directly to my website. They'll have all their contact information, or call the show. Now, Frank, what is the biggest issue that you see that comes up during a business transaction?
The biggest issue is that the seller is reporting or passes out information that's not entirely correct. In other words, the sales are off, or they're paying an employee that's really not an employee, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. The other things are, in certain companies, are environmental issues that have been dormant for a while and now are found during phase one.
Wow.
and have to be taken care of.
So is there somebody like an inspector, like you have a home inspector goes in there and looks for issues with the property? Is there someone like an inspector or somebody that comes in and looks at the whole business and makes sure, I'm sure with your CPA and all of those different people, but to make sure that you're protected?
Well, depending on the business, you want to hire the right professionals. For example, just to do a phase one environmental, you have to hire someone who's certified in doing those things.
Yep.
So, the buyer, as a part of his due diligence and feasibility study, has to do that.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as just making sure your business is not going to be located in a floodplain, that you'd have to pay exorbitant flood insurance prices.
What about some potential deal breakers?
Oh, like I said earlier, it's the deal breakers are primarily things that are reported in the listing, or that the seller says that are not necessarily true. And the other one is the fact that the business just isn't worth what is reported.
Yeah.
So that happens all the time. Another thing, too, is that during a feasibility study, once we really get down to the nitty-gritty, the buyer decides that, this really isn't a business for me. Uh-huh. And maybe a spouse or another family member joins in and says, we really just don't want to do this. So
I don't want you working all those hours. I want you to spend time at home with the kids.
Exactly. Because you do have a second marriage with a business.
Yes. What about, is it typical, or do you see where when someone comes in and purchases a business that maybe they've contracted the owner to stick around and to help with the transition?
Well, we always build in a transition period from a couple of weeks to 30 days or so. But in a lot of cases, I advise new buyers to take on the old owner for up to a year.
Okay.
There are certain rules with that. The SBA, for example, won't let an old owner stay on for more than a year in a business that's SBA financed. But if you can keep the new owner around and he's actually providing a great service for you, whether it's on an employment basis or as a consulting basis, it really does make sense.
And I think just if you've got employees, just for that point, to have the transition into the new ownership with the employees. I've worked with companies that hasn't been the case versus has, and it's a lot easier process and lose a lot less people. Now, what about any of my listeners that are listening today that are considering buying? What should they think about before, to determine whether this makes sense for them? Now, we already talked about the, being a second spouse and really having to commit the time. What other things should they be considering if this is going to be something that's right for them?
Well, you have to do a lot of soul searching. Is this something I really want to do? Can I actually devote the time and effort, money, and resources to make this happen for me? So in the beginning, before you go out and say, I want that business, you really do have to get some really good advice from people you trust and family members to make sure this is something you really want to do.
So, Frank, in residential or in real estate, as you know, there are certain times of the year that are better for, buying and selling property. What about businesses? I guess it may make a difference on what type of business it is, but are there better times during the year to sell and buy?
Well, from a seller's aspect, generally right at the end of the year, especially if you take a big down payment at the end of the year, you can carry some of that gain into the next year, and that helps a little bit for tax purposes. But from a buyer's standpoint, you always want to buy prior to the peak season if you can. And most businesses have peak season cycles. So if you can hit it just before that, that's great. So
like a ski resort, you want to buy right before the snow comes.
Exactly.
And what about most common contingencies? Or, I'm just trying to compare with a typical real estate transaction. Are there contingencies within the contract that are common?
Oh, sure. It's actually the same contingencies that you would see in a real estate contract.
Okay.
Financing, feasibility. And honestly, we always put in a 30-day out. So if within 30 days it's not going to work for them, they can out on that as well.
Got it.
So I'm very conscientious about making sure that a buyer can extract himself from a deal if, for example, it's not the right opportunity for them.
Okay. So, Frank, if somebody is thinking just in the very beginning stages of thinking about maybe purchasing a business, not really sure what kind of business, what they want to do, and they come to you and say, can you be out there looking for some great opportunities and deal? Do you kind of put things together and have properties and businesses ready to place with people?
Well, I can do that with franchises.
Okay.
Certainly. We have a whole gamut of franchises that we can look at. And in many cases, that's the best option for someone who hasn't been in business before.
Is to purchase in a franchise.
Yeah. Because it really is a cookie cutter operation.
I hear it's quite a process to purchase a McDonald's.
Yeah, well, there are not many of those for sale either. So, But if you're buying a small franchise, generally they're very well laid out. They have all the operational and all the things that you really need to get that business up and running. They have in place. So, if you don't know what you want to do, if you're not looking at a specific business, I would certainly say look at a franchise model.
So, what would be your suggestion if I was thinking about buying a business, which I'm not, but if I was thinking? What type of franchises in our area here?
Well, like I said, I have a new franchise coming on that is a health-related franchise, weight loss.
Okay.
Basically a spa franchise.
Oh, spa sounds nice.
And I actually we have a master franchise opportunity for that in Washington. So, So with a master franchise, obviously you're operating your franchise plus you have oversight for a number of others. So we don't have that one available now. It's doing very, very well in California and Arizona, and it's moving its way up the coast as we speak.
So again, if you want any information and to talk with Frank directly, you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or go online at themoneyhour.com. Frank, I got to wrap things up here, but any last final comment you'd like to make to my listeners before I take us to break?
Well, just for sellers, I'd like to say if you're considering selling, try to look a year down the path. Make sure that you're putting your ducks in a row now in order to get ready to sell a year or 18 months down the road, because you want to put your best foot forward, just like you would in a house. You want to make sure it's ready to sell. Same with your business. You want to make sure it's prepped and ready to sell before you actually put it on the market. Great advice. Frank, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun having a conversation with you about purchasing and selling businesses. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your expertise with my listeners. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Coming up next on the Money Hour, are you relocating with your company to Seattle or just moving here for a great job opportunity? Barry Bergner with Realogics at Sotheby's International Realty right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
When you were a little kid and you thought about what you wanted to be, teaching was at the top of your list. But things changed. And as you got older, teaching didn't seem like the best option anymore. So you're thinking you'll be something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Now you want to be a doctor. You don't think teachers save lives? 25 at a time. An actress? Try playing a different role every time the bell rings. How about a scientist? Ever heard of physics? Chemistry? Who do you think teaches that? Teachers today are breaking down obstacles, finding innovative ways to instill old lessons, and taking learning far beyond the four walls of the classroom. It's time to recognize that great things are happening in teaching and put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Find out how you can make more at teach.org. Make more. Teach. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving. without going overboard. So you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need feedthepig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
You can help a friend or family member receive a free wheelchair ramp by contacting the Master Builders Association at 1-800-522-2209 or visit rampathon.org to apply.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, January 2nd show. I provide you the news on everything money, fresh information on market trends and conditions in our local economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. To talk with the guests that I have in studio, you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, it's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio right now, I'm having a conversation with Barry Bergner with Realogics, Sotheby's International Realty, and we're going to talk about relocation. Barry, thank you so much for joining me in studio today.
Yeah, Happy New Year, and thanks for having me.
Happy New Year to you, too. I know I'm excited for a great 2016 that we're going to have here. A little bit about Barry. Barry has 13 years real estate experience and voted best in client satisfaction as published in Seattle Magazine every year since 2005. He's a certified negotiation expert, certified residential specialist, has his Green Realtor designation, and accredited staging professional. And again, we're going to be talking today about relocation and our employment opportunities here in the Seattle area are just unbelievable. And I know personally I do a lot of financing for people that are coming in and relocating. A lot of stuff happening with Amazon. And so when did you start your real estate career, Barry?
I started in 2002, got my license in 2002, and specialized in residential real estate. Mm-hmm.
And what brokerage you currently work with again?
Again, I'm working with Realogics, Sotheby's International Realty. I moved over there in 2013. Tremendous, fast-growing company.
I was just going to say they're having a lot of growth right now, and I've had a few recently in studio, so it's exciting to see what you guys are doing there. And tell me what sets you aside as far as the brokerage and what you guys are doing differently.
You know, Realogics, they are really a publishing company as well as a real estate company. I mean, they have marketing opportunities that most companies don't have. Exclusive opportunities. We have exclusive opportunities with the Puget Sound Business Journal. And the principals of the company, Dean and Stacy Jones, are marketing mavens, and they're constantly coming up with new marketing opportunities that no other company has.
And that's a huge benefit, especially for anybody that's thinking of selling their property, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not that you guys don't work with buyers, because you do, but really being able to set yourself aside on the marketing and what they're doing for you on the seller side is fantastic. So do you work on your own, Barry, or do you work with a team?
I have a partner, Enrico Pozzo, and in 2013 we decided to partner together. We
should have brought him in studio.
I should have.
Yeah.
We started both at the same time in the same brokerage right around 2002.
Okay.
And we think it's a real benefit for our clients. We collaborate. We both have different strengths and weaknesses, and there's always coverage. If one of us is on vacation, if one of us is busy with another client, we've always got somebody there to help the client.
I think those are all important. You're only one person, so you can only do so much. both of you, as you said, are going to have strengths and weaknesses, and really being able to communicate and talk things out with the two of you. And a partnership is, I mean, we all have coworkers and people that we talk with, but it's different when you have a partnership because you're vested in each other's success. And so you're really working together as that team to provide the best service that you can for your clients. So how, in what ways does that benefit your buyers and sellers, Barry?
Well, again, there's a lot of, this is a challenging market. An interesting question that we always get is, so the market's good, and well, good for who? In the past year, it's been great for sellers. It's been difficult for buyers, and there's a lot of strategy in the marketplace, and trying to purchase homes and multiple offers, and in real estate, there's always issues and things that come up that you've never experienced before, and so to have somebody to help you strategize, give you a different perspective, it's definitely beneficial to the client.
Yeah, and I tell my buyers, the representation that you choose for your realtor on buyer or seller side is so important, especially for the buyers because of the multiple offer scenarios. Really, just being able to, as you said, strategize and come up with a really strong plan to present the best offer. So, what about areas that you work in, Barry?
Well, I'm not a neighborhood specialist. I've worked all over King County. I've worked into North Pierce County occasionally, and worked into South Snohomish County. And that actually works very well for clients relocating into the region that are not familiar with the area at all. I'm comfortable South King County, East Side, Seattle, and can speak to clients about the differences in the communities.
Perfect. What about buyers and sellers? What's your percentage as far as what you're working with buyers versus sellers?
It's probably 60-40, 60% buyers, 40% sellers, but that changes from year to year.
Of course, so you put a strong focus on both of them.
Yeah, and we think that's, it's very important to understand what's going on both sides.
Yes.
When you're a buyer, it helps to be able to think like a seller, to be able to know what a seller's thinking, to be able to strategize, and again, write an offer that is likely to be accepted.
Yes. And so we're talking about relocation. So let's talk about you personally yourself working with buyers that are moving into our area here from another state.
Yeah, so there's going to be basically two types of buyers moving in. There'll be company relocations where they have relocation benefits, and then there'll just be people moving in for a number of different reasons. And one of the recent phenomena is people actually moving to Seattle for the weather.
I know, isn't that crazy? I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, and there are different scenarios, but the biggest issue is most people aren't familiar with the area, and oftentimes, especially if they're moving for work, they haven't had time to explore an area. They certainly don't know the neighborhoods, and they're under a lot of pressure to move quickly, and that can be really challenging for
it can
buyers.
Be challenging. It can be an expensive mistake if you don't allow the time and have the resources to get the information that you need.
Exactly.
What about for you in representing our local buyers here and purchasing real estate, as well as representing, as we're talking about, people that are coming in to our market, new to the area? What's the difference for you in those two different buyers?
There's a lot more. So you're always going to do a buyer intake interview with your clients, and with a buyer coming in from out of the region, there's a lot more going on. Somebody that's already here, typically they know where they want to live or what area they want to live in, and they have a much better idea of what the market conditions are. Somebody coming in from out of state, there's a lot more that they need to know. They need to know, and a lot of that comes out in the interview. We need to know what's important to them. Are schools? Do they have a family? Do they have children? Are schools important to them? Commute? If I get somebody that says, hey, I want a 3,000 square foot home and half an acre within 15 minutes of Seattle, and we know there's an education, different market conditions and what they're...
A little bit of a reality check, maybe?
What they're used to.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things I always insist on doing is what I'd call an area tour, which is just to, has nothing to do with looking at homes. It's just driving around, taking the client through the neighborhoods, showing them Ballard, showing them downtown Kirkland, Bellevue, and then talking to them about the lifestyle in each community.
Sure. And I would imagine too, in preparation for when they're here, is really being able to plan out and make sure that you've got time, everything that you're going to do while you're in the area. Because it's not like you're here every day.
Exactly.
And really having a strategic plan on when you're going to get things done.
Yeah, lots of times they're here on company time, and they've got appointments that they've got to have to be scheduled around. And so, it is important to make sure, I want the experience to take care of their needs and to make sure that they get what they need. And if it's looking at homes in certain neighborhoods, great. Again, I always want to do that area tour if possible. And there's a lot of communication in there. There's a lot of questions that you get answered, and helps you be able to point them in the right direction. And sometimes purchasing right away isn't the best solution, and renting for certain clients is a better option immediately, so they can, you're talking about spending a lot of money, and to get tied in somewhere where is not the best fit for you can be a real difficult situation for
and
a buyer.
And even more so for people relocating. I mean, they're dealing with the same challenge of lack of inventory as well. So I'm sure you're running into a lot of that, to where there is not something available in the area that they need to be. So they don't have no other option but to come here and rent.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And renting is difficult too. But
yes, that's true. Getting housing here is just a challenge, no matter how you look at it.
Well, Seattle Times, December 4th issue, Seattle Times says 6,000 people a month in 2015 took up residence in King County, which is a lot of people.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's crazy. What about if somebody's relocating and working through a relocation company with their employer? Do they typically get to choose who they want to work with as far as representation for their realtor and for their lender, or is the company require them to work with their people?
Most relocation companies have real estate brokerages that they have agreements with, and typically they're getting pointed towards one of those.
But is it kind of like a builder? They can choose to work with their people, or they can choose. They're highly encouraged, but they've got an option to choose most of the time, or no?
Well, they can. The relocation company may have, again, agreements with and financial agreements with companies that they get forced with. But sometimes if there's a broker that they want to work with, and that broker will agree to whatever terms the relocation company has, the relocation company may allow them to work with that broker.
Got it. So are you seeing in a high percentage of relocations, the companies that are going through have relocation packages to where they're actually taking care of their existing mortgage payment? Or are you finding that they can buy without going contingent? What's happening there?
What I've seen and experienced is that they will most often have to sell their home if they have to sell a home. That once they get into a contract, then the relocation company will release their money early. So instead of having to wait until closing, they'll get their money earlier, so that will help them be able to purchase in the new area. It is buying contingent is totally dependent on market conditions.
Yes, of course.
And the current market conditions, where inventory is so low, contingent offers are very, very difficult. A home would have to be on the market for quite a bit of time. Most likely for a seller to consider accepting a contingent offer.
Yeah. So it might be a good idea, before accepting a relocation package with your company, if you're, listening right now in this process, reach out and talk to a local representative. And if you're listening to the show online, you're moving here to Seattle, I've got one right in studio here, and find out some of the questions and things that you need to be looking at through your relocation package to make sure that everything is set up the way you need it to be most successful. And if not, at least you're planning ahead what you need to do. In common mistakes that you see, because relocating to an area versus just being local and moving neighborhoods, completely different process. What are some of the common mistakes that you see buyers making in this transition?
Yeah.
And how do they avoid them?
Probably first is moving too quickly and not getting all the information that you need. It's important, again, you're spending a lot of money. It's important to be where in an area that fits your home or fits your lifestyle. And moving too quickly can, again, put you in a situation that you may not be able to get out of for a few years.
Got it. So, Barry, working with a Realtor in any situation, there's areas of expertise that might be important depending on what you're needing. And in this situation, we're talking about relocation. How important for a buyer that's going through a relocation to work with a Realtor that has expertise in this arena, and what things would set you aside from a traditional broker that's not working with relocation clients on a regular basis?
I think one of the biggest things, again, is getting a broker that knows the region. Somebody specializing just in condominiums in Seattle, that's great if you want to live in a condominium in Seattle. If you don't, then you really need somebody with some broad expertise, some broad knowledge of the area. I think the broker needs to have more patience. They need to have empathy. They need to understand what the buyer is going through.
Yes.
All the stresses. They've got often they have families.
Kids
to move.
don't want to move to another state. They want to stay where they're at.
Yep, and again, they're under a lot of pressure. They're very busy, and in this marketplace that's very frenetic, it creates additional stress. And when somebody comes into the marketplace and you're telling them, well, you've got to look at this home today, and then you've got to make an offer tonight. Very, very stressful, very difficult, and not always the best. Not always the best advice.
Yes. Now, we talked about common mistakes that happen. I'm sure there's some common challenges that people are dealing with when they're relocating, maybe challenges of what their expectations are, or challenges that come into the process they're not prepared for. What would be some typical challenges that are special to their process?
Well, there is no national real estate market. Every market is unique. Every neighborhood is unique. The market for Queen Anne is different than the market for West Seattle. And so certainly the market in Arkansas is going to be different than the market in Seattle. And the expectations, in your marketplace, in our marketplace in Arkansas, where maybe the average market time is 180 days, coming to Seattle, where the average market time might be 15 days. That's a huge difference, and it's important to set your expectations, realistic expectations. So you need to understand the market conditions that you're moving into, and it's good to know that up front.
So just like everything else we talk about is preparation. So find out what upfront things that you need to know. Things are going to be different in this market versus your market. Now, what about questions and things that they should be asking themselves, or what's that they should be looking at and considering? The Seattle market. You have a list of questions that they should be thinking about?
Sure. I mean, I would if I were moving to Seattle or another market, I would want to know the overall landscape of real estate. You know, what's happening? Is people moving into the area? People not, moving out of the area? What's going on with home prices? I'd also want to understand the local real estate contract. Real estate contracts are different.
Great point.
Different in every area.
Sometimes people are surprised that they don't sign on closing. That's surprising to people. They're used to just signing and closing same day.
Absolutely. Some places attorneys handle the contracts and the closings. All of that's in order to feel comfortable when the time comes to write an offer, which is another stress. The more you know up front, the more comfortable you are with the contract, the better it is for you. A good lender is important, and often a local lender rather than a lender that they may be familiar with. They may have a bank account.
Yes.
I know in our marketplace, when you're dealing with multiple offers, often the lender that you're using can
make or break it.
Can be a real issue and can be a deciding factor as to who gets the contract.
Yeah, good point, Barry. I tell my clients that every day. It's that, the loan officer, the mortgage professional on that pre-approval letter can make or break based on their local reputation. Barry, thank you so much for joining me in studio. I had a great conversation with you, and excited to have you back in studio, and we'll have to partner up and get the entire team in here.
Great. Would love to do it.
Perfect. This is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Cheers to a new year, and it's never too late to plan for the best financial year yet. So we're there. We're in year 2016. So use myself and the show as a resource. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I look forward to talking more money next Saturday right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
The preceding program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Finance of America Mortgage LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1071, AZBK 0910184. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit AbsoluteLoans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.